The CBS late night movie will be seen following this CBS News special report.
The U.S. Air Force Nightingale medical evacuation plane touched down tonight on Guam, bringing the exiled and deposed Ferdinand Marcos to U.S. soil. Reported to be ill, kidney trouble, he nevertheless walked off the plane, and an island official says he's expected to move on again tomorrow morning, reportedly to Hawaii. In Manila, jubilant supporters of Cory Aquino swept through the streets like the tide. Others had vengeance in mind, though. They stormed over the walls of the abandoned presidential palace to express their contempt for the ousted, departed Ferdinand Marcos.
This is a CBS News special report on the Philippines. An ending and a beginning. Here is Dan Rather.
Good evening. Some may find it fitting for a leader thrown out of office in disgrace by his own people. Ferdinand Marcos's arrival tonight on the American Pacific island of Guam. There was a torrential rainstorm as a U.S. Air Force medical evacuation plane landed after its flight from Clark Air Base near Manila. The ailing Marcos was placed on board that plane at Clark, reportedly on a stretcher. But when it landed at Guam's Anderson Air Force Base, Marcos left on his own power to go to a rest house. Guam's acting governor said late tonight that Marcos and his party are expected to leave Guam tomorrow morning Eastern Time in the U.S. on what may be the last leg of his trip into exile, possibly, said the acting governor on Guam, to Honolulu, Hawaii. Mark that he is the only official that we can find who says that. Back in Manila, Cory Aquino and her supporters were understandably savoring their success, as we hear from correspondent Bob Simon.
This morning, it still required a certain suspension of disbelief. People were strolling casually around the public park, which only yesterday was the private garden of the Marcos dynasty. There is a gentleness in Filipinos, so much so that many doubted they'd ever have what it takes to do what they did. That gentleness was everywhere this morning, the morning after they forced the despot to flee. Soldiers were discovering new dimensions in their relationships to the people, and the church and the army were one. Think of it, the progressive forces in the Philippines, soldiers and priests.
We are a Catholic country. Everybody's praying for peaceful revolution.
I cannot believe it. It's a miracle from God.
Asia hands will tell you that Filipino time moves a lot slower than American time. And there's something about all this that smacks of the 60s. There's the same scent of flower power in the air. There's the same sense that anything is possible. When the crowds rushed the palace last night, it was with the careless exuberance of yesteryear students taking over the office of the dean. But they were exploding, not with the recklessness of youth, but with the pent-up energies of a generation. 20 years of Marcos. There was an effigy in cardboard, the one-dimensional dictator. There were human pyramids on tanks, the People's Army. There were excesses, there was vandalism, not much really. And when President Aquino broadcast to the nation before dawn this morning, it was to congratulate her compatriots not only on what they had done, but on how they had done it. The ends and the means were one.
And we can be truly proud of the unprecedented way we achieved our freedom, with courage and with determination, and most important, in peace.
There was a remarkable absence of rancor this morning, but if alongside the deepening joy, the hope, and the prayers, there was a certain mischief in the air, well, there they were after all, selling coconuts in the garden of the palace. Dan?
Bob Simon, there's always euphoria at a time like this. How long can it last?
Oh, I don't think the euphoria will last very long, Dan. It never does. But there has been an enormous release of energy here. And I think that if Mrs. Aquino and the very smart team behind her channeled that energy, things could really be different in the Philippines. If you just write a list of the problems of the Philippines, Dan, you're in effect, you're writing a catalog of despair. The country is dirt poor. The departure of Marcos isn't going to change that. The guerrillas aren't going to go away. Corruption isn't going to go away. It's a very deeply ingrained way of life. And when you think of it, 3 months ago, the very disunited opposition never really thought they would unseat Marcos. It was a pipe dream. And now these very same people today are about to appoint a cabinet. They're selecting ministers as we speak. Dan, to be optimistic in the Philippines is perhaps to be a little bit naive, but there is a can-do spirit here. One senses it everywhere. And to be a little bit optimistic today, I don't think is to be entirely foolish.
Thank you, Bob Simon. The former housewife and helpmate is now the president. Corazon Aquino must lead a scattered nation of islands, a diverse and poor people. Is she equal to that task? And can she stand up to the long-time and growing communist insurgency? We'll examine those questions when our special coverage continues.
For the camel.
Well, sir, here is a fine specimen.
Don't you have something in a newer model?
Wait, let me check the home office.
If you're a businessman who wants to do more business, look into microcomputer products from Hayes. Because a Hayes communication system gives you access to data to make important decisions.
Yes. Would you prefer one hump or two?
Say yes to the future with Hayes.
I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV. And if your child had a cough, she'd get just what the doctor orders. But for your cough, you play doctor at home, even trying medicine you originally bought for your child. You need one of the adult formulas from Vicks. For the coughs adults get, with the strength adults need. Formula 44 for coughs, 44D for coughs with congestion, and 44M for coughs with congestion and a raw, irritated throat. The adult formulas. You can't buy anything more effective.
The adult formulas from Vicks, of course.
Though it may not have seemed that way at the time, a fateful moment for Ferdinand Marcos came last December 11th. On that date, Cory Aquino and a rival opposition leader, Salvador Laurel, announced they had agreed to put aside their differences to run against Marcos together on a unified opposition ticket, headed by Aquino. It came as a surprise to many political observers that Laurel was willing to give up his own campaign to be the opposition's candidate for president. Vice President Laurel is with us live tonight in Manila. Mr. Vice President, thank you for being with us. My first question is, how do you maintain unity now?
I don't think that will be a problem right now because President Aquino and I have agreed to carry on this fight. It's not really over yet. We're still in the process of transition. We are taking over the government ministries and other offices, and it isn't over yet, and now more than ever, we need unity.
Is there a threat of further bloodshed as you